we will explore approaches to gender. Consider viewing theories very much like wearing a different set of colored sunglasses. Each color gives you a slightly different perspective of what is being seen, and theories will operate very much like that. So let's get started and view theoretical perspectives. Theoretical approaches to gender. Theory is a way of describing, explaining, predicting relationships among phenomenon. We use theories to make sense of behaviors. Theories about sex and gender affect thoughts and behaviors and help develop awareness. We're going to explore 4 types of gender theories. We'll look at biological, which looks at sex, chromosomes, hormones, brain structures as being one group of theories. Interpersonal, which are the interpersonal relationships and the development of the concepts of masculinity and femininity and how they change over time. The third grouping will be that of culture, looking at the larger influence of culture on gender. Not all cultures view gender in the same manner. And then fourthly, we're going to look at critical, looking at how oppressed groups can become more empowered. Okay, the biological theories focus on how sex chromosomes, hormones, brain specializations affect individuals. Biological characteristics of sex are basis for differences. So let's begin with the chromosomes, sex chromosomes. There are X and Y chromosomes that determine if a person is male or female. Most people inherit one sex chromosome from each parent. Different genes, such as those that influence intelligence and social skills, are thought to reside on different chromosomes. Because men and women have different chromosomal makeup, they have different possibilities for gene expression. Most females have XX. Most males have XY. Men are more prone to hereditary conditions than women. Single Y carries condition genes that are not corrected by a second Y, whereas having 2 X's, you're more likely to have one that overrides a conditioned gene. You can find this on page 37, Exploring Gendered Lives for Chromosomal Variations. Now, hormones, on the other hand, they influence skills and tendencies. Girls can favor trucks if mothers have high levels of testosterone during pregnancy. Hormones influence tendencies associated with gender. Males given estrogen experience a decline in spatial skills, an increase in verbal skills. Men sprayed with oxytocin show more empathy and sensitivity. It shows the role of hormonal activity. Now, estrogen, it's the primary female hormone that has been shown to have a positive influence on cardiovascular functioning, to strengthen the immune system, and to create greater deposits of fat around the hips and breast, and to slow liver processing of alcohol. Whereas testosterone, the primary male hormone, has been shown to have a hormonal cycle that's been linked to violence, aggression, and changes in cognitive functioning. Men's hormonal change later in life is more gradual than women's. Testosterone deficiency can lead to increase in body fat, moodiness, and depression. Now, the differences in brain structure and development has an impact. Each sex specializes in one side of the brain. While research has shown that women and men use both the right and left lobes of the brain, the sexes tend to specialize in using different lobes. Men tend to emphasize left brain functioning, responsible for traditional linear spatial information, spatial skills, and abstract and analytical reasoning. Women, on the other hand, tend to emphasize right brain functioning, responsible for imaginative, artistic activity, holistic and intuitive thinking, and some visual functioning. Interestingly, it's the corpus callosum that links the two brains together. Women have a greater ability to use this this corpus callosum links the two brains, two lobes of the brain together, and may explain why women tend to do better at memory, social skills, and juggling more tasks than men. Now I'm going to post a video in week 3 that you can look at, and it helps you to navigate and look at the brain in more detail. And please read on page 39 the example of David Reimer, it's an interesting look at gender reassignment cases that have been done, in this case, in Canada. Now, biological theories focus on how chromosomes, hormones, and brain structure affect physiology, thinking, and behavior. Biological factors influence the abilities, our abilities and options. Biology is edited by environmental features. Now, when we look at interpersonal theories in gender, now they differ quite a bit from biology. The psychodynamic, this emphasizes interpersonal relationships within the family. The first relationships influence how we define our identity, including gender. Most infants are cared for by women, often mothers. Mothers may act differently towards daughters and sons based on their own upbringing and social views. Infants will follow distinct developmental paths that reflect relationships with mother. Now, fundamental likeness between mother and daughter interact more with daughters, keep daughters closer physically and psychologically, and more nurturing. Because of identification with a mother, young girls may first understand their gender identity in relationship to their mothers. Sons and mothers, they recognize a fundamental difference between themselves, which leads to a greater separation. Mothers encourage more and earlier independence and talk less about emotional matters. Now, this doesn't mean there isn't any crossing over. These are more generalized and based on research observations about the differences between men and women and boys and girls. Sons thus associate independence and autonomy with relationships. Identity is not fixed. We grow and change as we journey through life. As infants mature, they carry with them basic identity formed in their first relationships. Now, within the same category, we have social learning theory. And here, learning is by imitating others and getting responses to the behavior that we exhibit. Children imitate communication seen in media and by others. Media plays a role in teaching children what roles are rewarded for girls and what roles are rewarded for men. Social learning theory views children as passive in this process and suggests that reinforcement processes continue throughout our lifetime. Now, contradictorily, in addition, cognitive, well, here children play an active role in developing gender identity by picking models of competency for masculinity and femininity, and then children go through several stages in the developing of their identity. From birth to about 24 to 30 months, searching communication for labels to apply to themselves. By 3 or earlier, they realize being a boy or being a girl is not temporary. They establish what's known as gender constancy. Is a point in which a child recognizes that his or her gender is relatively unchanging. Now, there's a term that's used, it's called gender schema. Now, the gender schema is an internal mental framework for categorizing perceptions and directing behavior related to gender. It's how we organize clothes, toys, activities, and traits and roles appropriate for each sex. We keep them in, if you will, imaginary, these little gender boxes, male and female, boy and girl. Before 1 year, infants distinguishes between male and female faces and voices. By age 2, children use schema of gender to organize understandings. As children mature, they continue to seek out role models for masculinity and femininity. Learn from role models what is acceptable and what makes one appear to enact others' prescribed gender behavior. Let's move on to the culture and theories of gender. Cultural theories examines the larger influence of culture on the development of identity. Cultural theories represent a fairly comprehensive approach to gender development as they incorporate other theories within the broader context of society at a particular moment in time. Now, one of the terms that's used is anthropology. Anthropological theories examine how various cultural constructs, how various cultures construct and express gender. As you probably saw in the video that I posted last week, many societies have conceptions of gender that differ significantly from the currently held view of gender in North America. What fathering means varies across cultures. The amount of time fathers hold their children varies greatly. In the Dominican Republic, some males born with underdeveloped organs is not that uncommon. They are raised as conditional girls, and during puberty, as a flush of hormones promotes sexual maturity, their testes drop, their penis grows, and they become accepted as boys, and all is good again. And so that certainly not the case in North America, where we hold much more static definitions of what it is to be male and female. Now we can look at symbolic interactionalist view, where they emphasize the process through which individuals learn to participate in society and internalize its values through communicating with others. It's through communication with others we learn who we are. As parents interact with children, they tell them who they are. By saying, hey, that's really good, you're a good boy or you're a good girl, we start to reinforce who they become. Each label offers a child self-image. Children internalize views to arrive at understanding. Views of gender communicated through parents' responses, play activity with peers, and through interaction with teachers. The roles that we play, these are sets of expectations, sets of expected behavior and values associated with them. Roles are external to the individual, and roles are assigned by society. One primary way to classify social life is gender roles. Women as caretakers, women as represented in service and clerical jobs, and men as executive positions. Women asked to take care of the social activities. Men are regarded as breadwinners. The current recession challenging traditional roles where men were laid off. So these are sort of shifts over time in how gender roles can change, but they become classifying of social life through the social world. When we move to the critical theories of gender, different from the other theories in that the critical theory directs attention to structures by which society classify people, interested in how dominant groups and privileged groups own interest and impose on the less powerful. Understand how oppressed groups can become more empowered. Critical theories have a political edge to them. One of the theories is known as standpoint theory. And societies are made up of different groups that have varied amounts of power and privilege. Membership in groups shape what individuals experience. So, for example, membership in either your gender, your race, your class, or sexual identity will shape your experience. And so there's three claims using standpoint theory. One, all points of view about social life are partial. So depending upon what class or what category or what gender you are, that view you have of social life is limited, it's partial, because you don't have the view of any of the other categories. In addition, number two, some perspectives are more limited than others. Standpoint earned through critical reflection and engaged in struggle, societies are made of different groups that are organized in social hierarchy. Membership in groups shape what individuals experience. Demands of role lead mothers to develop maternal thinking and arise out of location and domestic roles. Men, who are the primary parent, are more nurturing and expressive. So based on where we stand and what we are exposed to, give us insights into things that others don't have. We occupy multiple social locations, and we can earn or develop multiple standpoints that overlap and interact. Standpoint theory helps us to understand gender by pointing out how membership in a particular group shapes individuals' experiences, perspectives, identities, and abilities. Now, queer performative theory, I know it sounds peculiar, but you can read the 3 examples that are provided on page 50 and 51 first. It might help you get a better handle on this. Queer theory challenges the way a culture defines and polices what is considered normal and abnormal. Critique of conventional categories of identity and culture views of normal and abnormal. Queer does not refer only to gay and lesbian, it refers to anything that departs from what society considers normal. It's not useful to use terms like women, men, gay, and straight. Identities are shaped by numerous factors, so naming somebody according to a single factor is misleading. It assumes that identities are not fixed, that they're relatively fluid. It means that more than being able to switch from one sex or one gender to another, it can mean refusing to accept any stable sexual identity. And then performative theory, this is through performance, humans generate identity, including gender. And gender comes into being only as expressed. That is to say that gender is something that we do at a specific time. Gender is more viewed as a verb rather than a noun. We express conventional gender through everyday practices. We resist conventional views of gender if we act in ways that are inconsistent with the assigned roles. Performances are collaborative. That is to say, we are not in a vacuum, but among others we receive feedback. Queer performative theories integrate views of queer and performative theories. Performance are means of challenging and destabilizing the cultural categories and their attracted values. It's important that performances that are not routine or not everyday and serve as political tools that unsettle. Now lastly, when we think about theories, it's probably helpful to think of theories as working together. Theories work together to shed light on how to develop and enact gender identities. Please review the examples on page 54 and 55 to see how one theory really does not, is not an example for all things, rather how they are often shared in how we can understand our gendered lives. So theory is important. It's important from able to look at gender and look at communication and culture, not from one single point of view. But it's important to be able to have a multiple view to better understand the things that go on around us in our understanding of gender and culture and communication. All right. Carry on the good work, everybody. We'll see you later.